when I was in the Oaxaca area, what is now the 98th Infantry Battalion of Santa Maria, Huatulco. It was just when I was about to complete my first year and a half of service for the Mexican Army. That's where I met a lieutenant at the time with whom, honestly, I got along well. He was cool, one of those who demands a lot, but honestly, he's right about everything he asks of you. Someone you respect. Although he had a very common problem, besides being a womanizer and a drunk, he had a serious issue that we always had to help him avoid. It was that he would forget his weapon or equipment everywhere, from a convenience store to the bathrooms in taco shops or small diners. He would always leave something behind, especially when he was really drunk. One of those days, it happened that the lieutenant had gone out with us on an operation to support police officers and Marines in a convoy. Honestly, it's something that both entertains you and annoys you, having to share everything with them. Seriously. And maybe saying this will get me into some trouble, but it's something that almost nobody ever says. This often causes misunderstandings and problems that we usually solve by. And that time was no exception, because one of our guys got into a fight with one of the sailors who were there. But while that fight was going on, the lieutenant had already grabbed his beer, and he started with 1, 2, 4, and finally 12. So by the time the incident was over and things calmed down, our lieutenant was already completely wasted. This story is from around 2012 or 2013. Honestly, I don't really remember the exact year, but it was when all the chaos with those guys was just starting. 05 Sucoatl, or who knows. Whatever the hell those useless things were called that Sedina was giving us to replace the legendary, beautiful, and divine ones, G3FAL and M14. And the fight ended when an officer named Trixie, who I had become friends with, separated them and put an end to everything. And we all went back to what we were doing. At the time, nobody noticed and nobody thought or remembered that the lieutenant could forget the equipment when he was that drunk. We just let it go, honestly. None of us gave a damn about that detail with our lieutenant at the time. But when we were already halfway back to the area to dismount, that's when it hit us. A subtle detail from the lieutenant, something minor, but it stood out compared to all of us. In his arms was an M4, honestly. Nothing that should really mean anything. Or so we thought, until you realize that at first, the lieutenant had the brand new FX-05, and now he was carrying an M4. We all went quiet for a moment until someone started talking.
Lieutenant, excuse me for saying this, but didn't you have an FX at first, and why do you have an M4 now?
Our lieutenant for the first time realized that wasn't his weapon, and immediately ordered us to look for it, as if it was our fault that he was a complete mess. We spent nearly an hour searching together, moving quickly and even returning to the site of the fight. The weapon didn't appear, so we intercepted the Marines' quick response team, but they didn't have it either. The last step was to ask the police officers if one had accidentally taken the lieutenant's weapon instead of their own. Almost half an hour passed after we arrived at the municipal police headquarters with the officers who were with us, searching for the missing weapon, and nothing. We went to look, we searched for almost 2 hours, and it was as if the earth had swallowed up that weapon. Or at least that's what we thought until a patrol car arrived that we hadn't checked and that we didn't even remember. There were 8 other officers in it, among them. My friend, the officer, was there. Trixie, my friend whom I had made during that joint operation, really quick. And there was my friend Trixie, the friend I had made during that operation. Obviously, while she was settling the fight between our guy and the Marine who were arguing, the lieutenant was totally drunk. By the way, even his mother took the weapon, which wasn't even hers. They just swapped weapons between her and our lieutenant. Trixie got arrested for letting go of her weapon and not carrying it with her. Honestly, I don't know what that arrest is called in the police penal code, but basically that's what happened to her. And well, our lieutenant, upon arriving at the area, had to come out into the open. The reason why all that mess happened with the weapons and with our ally, and the Marine who got in trouble in front of everyone, and especially the lieutenant who was given the alcohol test and was completely wasted, going over 0.9 alcohol level. All I can say is that night our lieutenant learned to say daddy, even in Mandarin, from the huge beating he took. And if you're wondering about me, what I was doing at that moment when all that was happening, I just took out my phone and started chatting with my boyfriend at the time. Honestly, I couldn't care less about what was happening. And as for our lieutenant, after that night of being dragged and beaten up, the next day he was walking all the way to Rengo, and he couldn't even sit down, right? Not without a cushion underneath. It's not a heavy story, nor is it something strange, but it's one of those that stays with you to appreciate and live through reverently. If you also have a story you want to share, send it to my email or any of my social media accounts. I'll read it as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching the video, seriously. It really helps a lot if you like, comment, or share. And if you enjoy this kind of content, you can subscribe. I really appreciate it. See you next time.